If you've already hit multiple six figures in your business, you've likely done the funnel thing. You've built landing pages, lead magnets, you've done the email sequences, and that stuff's not wrong. In fact, I would say it's foundational. It's the stuff that helps you progress, and it's a way for you to make money while you sleep. But here's the truth. I think the game has really evolved over the last year or two. And I think people often overlook what I'm going to share with you today. And that's how to layer a new kind of funnel right here on LinkedIn. And that kind of funnel being very intentional in terms of looking at how can you position your brand in a way on LinkedIn and on social media so that it accelerates trust, earns attention, and start sales conversations way faster than a 9 email sequence could, right? And we're not throwing out traditional funnels and not suggesting that for a minute, but I am talking about how to leverage what you're doing on LinkedIn so that you're making your LinkedIn work smarter. You're making your funnels work smarter. And I hate the work smarter, not harder phrase. So maybe let's call it more strategically and more intentional, that there's a bit more intentionality behind it, but that intentionality is actually about priming your audience before they ever opt in, right? Bear with me because in this live, I'm going to share with you this new kind of LinkedIn funnel. And I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit because email funnels on your site are brilliant if your people land on your site and they're ready to opt in. But very often I see the mistake that a lot of clients and coaches that I work with make, and that is that they send cold traffic into a warm funnel. So what I mean by that is they take cold traffic from social media. Sometimes they'll run paid ads. Sometimes it's just opt in, but people don't know what they're opting in for. It might be their first time to land on a website. And they're being brought through a funnel with somebody they don't know who's trying to sell them something. And I can tell you, hand on heart, this has been me. I have tried to do this because I didn't know any better. But that's where LinkedIn comes in. And LinkedIn can become what I like to call a permission engine. The type of marketing I love to do is really customer-centered, permission-based marketing. And what I mean by that is it's asking people if you can help them. It's not just saying, here, buy my thing. It's asking people if they want the help. And when you do that, you earn trust. And when you focus on bringing value and being permission based in your content, you earn trust in your feed, and you create emotional resonance through the content that you create because you build relevance through the stories that you share. So by the time someone hits your landing page or books a call with you, they've already decided. One of my fabulous recent clients came on a call with me. She'd been following me on LinkedIn, complete and utter lurker. Last week, if you were on my live, I talked about probably 95 to 97% of your audience are lurking, they're curious, or they're just watching behind the scenes, right? And this client was lurking behind the scenes, watching everything that I was dishing out. And she came on the call and she said, Deirdre, I love how authentic you are. I love that you swear. And basically, that was one of the first things out of her mouth. And she had already decided that we were going to work together. And it was just a case of, this is what I need help with, Deirdre. How do you work? What do you do? How can we make this work together? And that decision was already made. I had another example of that as well, where I have a client who used to run a marketing agency. She ran a really successful marketing agency for nearly 20 years, and now she's completely pivoted in her business. And like that, she came on and she was like, Deirdre, I want to work with you. She was like, you must think this is like I'm trying to fish for all of your ideas. And what do you do when we had the sales call? And I was just like, just tell me why you're here. What do you need help with? And essentially, what it was she said, Deirdre, I like how you tell stories, and I want to be able to improve how I tell stories. And she's pivoting and she wanted to change, and she liked how that happened. So she came on the sales call ready to buy. Another client, I mean, I've got so many examples of this. I could just spend the whole LinkedIn live talking about that, but I won't. And here's what I want you to realize from the examples I have shared with you is that every post you write, every comment you leave, every DM that you send, it's shaping the feeling that your audience, your followers has about you. Because remember, on LinkedIn, when you comment on somebody else's content, all of your followers can see your comments. So your comments are the equivalent of touch points. Your comments create impressions on people's content too. So don't forget that. I think people often overlook that. But what happens is when you're shaping that feeling the market has about you, you're creating your brand. And what a lot of people don't realize is that your brand is not what you say it is. It's what they say it is. It's that gut feeling or impression that they have about you before they come on that sales call. So this new funnel that I'm talking about, it's built on experience. It's built on the experience that you create and not automation like you might have in a traditional funnel where somebody signs into your email list, and on the email list, then what happens is they get the freebie, whatever it is, and then you send them a ton of emails. That's not what I'm talking about. In this new type of funnel structure, or how I want you to consider it, is that LinkedIn is your platform as opposed to your own one. And I'll talk about this as well, because I think you need both. And I'm not saying get rid of your traditional funnel, but what I'm saying is think of how you can make LinkedIn a funnel. So for example, like you've probably been running an invisible funnel on LinkedIn, but never realized it or never thought about it in this way. So the content you create, basically your content is equal to awareness and relevance. That's what you're doing. You're showing people that you get them. And when you do that in such a way, you're doing that not by shouting about the features of what you do, but by shifting beliefs, by talking about the problems that your clients are experiencing, by sharing insights relevant to your niche, your industry right now, by sharing things that are important to them. So it could be something motivational because you recognize they're struggling, but it's something that's relevant to what they're doing, but shows that you get them. And you can do that by demonstrating empathy. But then if you think about the next step, usually, like if somebody comes across you on LinkedIn, usually the first way they come across you, aside from you sending them a connection request, is through your content, because they'll see your content in their feed because somebody else might have commented on it or liked it. And so it pops up in your second degree connections feed. And then if they like that, the second thing that happens is they move into your profile. And in your profile, here's what you need to do for a really effective funnel profile. You need proof and you need shit hot positioning. And if you think of it like this is the first of your sort of opt-in type page. Your profile is the equivalent of an opt-in. It's where people decide this is someone I can trust with my next move. And that's what you want to happen. And if they like that, what they'll do is they'll follow you or connect with you, and then they'll continue to engage on your content or start to lurk on your content. And here's where it moves into the funnel part or the end stage of the funnel, and that's in the DMs, because your DMs are where you start to make that permission-based invitation, or you start to send those permission-based invites, if you like. So instead of pushing offers, what you're doing is you're pulling people into clarity. You're not selling stuff, you're sorting. And each touch point throughout this funnel or journey, from the content to the profile to the DMs, that builds on the last one. So it's all about trying to get them to step into your funnel or application form eventually, but not on LinkedIn. So not while they're cold leads. You're pre-qualifying buyers essentially. So in doing that invisible funnel on LinkedIn, the people who do come into your email funnel, it means you don't need so many of them. You can sell thousands via your actual traditional email funnel by doing this pre-qualification funnel on LinkedIn. And it's very possible you've been doing this subconsciously or maybe even consciously in the background. So let me break down why this strategy works. And really what it is, first off, is it's the empathy piece. The neuromarketing behind this is that when you when you show up and demonstrate empathy in your content, what happens is your clients' mirror neurons are firing up because they see themselves in your content. So when you're talking about problems, they're going, oh my gosh, they're talking to me. I need whatever it is that they're offering. I don't care how they do it. Like that client who came on the call and said, this is what I need. Can you help me? Or the other client who said, yes, story, that's what is relevant to me. That's it. And the second thing that happens, the science behind this from a neuromarketing and a neuroscience perspective, is the second thing that gets activated is called the reticular, the reticular, I can never say this word, the reticular activating system. What that does is it filters information. It's that what's in it for me? How does this matter to my survival? How does this help me not just survive, but thrive? And if you're sharing content that helps people on a really subconscious level really figure that out, well, then that's value-based content. And people want to read value-based content. That's the kind of stuff that triggers them, because if it's a waste of their time, you're wasting words in them. If it's too complicated, you're creating what's known as cognitive dissonance. They have to read something twice, or they have to go back and listen a second time so that they understand what you're talking about. And what I'm talking about, and giving you the science term here, reticular activating system, that's literally somebody saying, how does this bit of information help me survive and thrive? And sometimes survival looks like having a laugh. And people will stop and pay attention to the thing that makes them have a laugh, because that creates dopamine. And when we release dopamine, it makes us want to stay on the platform for longer as well. But dopamine can also come from receptors lighting up in your brain because you read something or hear something that makes you feel, gosh, I can do this. Amazing. Or this is the thing that I've been looking for, and it lights me up. But that's because your content has become a signal to them in their noisy feed because it's relevant to what they need. Does that make sense? And the final part is trust. So I like to describe marketing as a lesson in memorability. But what people don't realize is that repeated exposure and sharing that value-based content that's aligned with your ideal client actually causes neural pathways of familiarity and safety to start to come to the fore more and more. And what that results in is trust. And who do people buy from? People that they trust, right? It's really simple. So the more that you are specific in your messaging, the more you talk about what types of people you work with and the type of help that you guide them through. And I mean, this stuff that I'm talking to you about is how I help people understand what to do, or where to make a little shift in their marketing or their messaging, or maybe a different way of looking at what they're doing, so it's more aligned with what they're trying to achieve. But in all of that, the idea being that it's the same type of content that I share all of the time, and yours should be too. And by showing up, even like I'm sick of seeing selfies of myself, I'm not gonna lie. But I mean, those selfies, people know who I am. Some people will unfollow me. That's okay. I'm all right with that, because I want people to accept or reject me. And the people who accept me and they're lurking behind the scenes on my content, well, they're my people. I don't need them to engage every time. I wish they would, because then my content might get more impressions and reach, but that's okay. And I think it's realizing that that's all right when that happens. But ultimately, the repeated exposure where you're talking about the same stuff, that lesson in memorability, that alignment with the problem, all of that creates familiarity. And so they feel safe then, and they're ready to work with you. So traditional funnels tend to rely on logic, but this funnel I'm talking about, it actually starts with feeling. It's it's intuition. But it's their intuition or their gut instinct or feeling, what's in their heart and mind about your brand and your business before they start working with you. And why this is important is because feeling drives buying. 95% of purchasing decisions are made based on subconscious emotions. 95%. Like that's a lot, right? So This isn't an either or strategy, it's a sequence strategy. So instead of driving cold traffic to cold pages, use LinkedIn to pre-warm and pre-qualify your audience. You can use content to test offer ideas and see if it works. I do this consciously via polls to test what people want in terms of maybe a lead magnet I might create, and it's often stuff that I share right here on LinkedIn. You can use comments to identify a buyer's intent where you're commenting proactively on your content with buyers, but also then it's using your profile as a conversion asset. So then and only then should you be sending people into your existing funnel or challenge or offer sequence, whatever it is, because the result then is, yes, you might have fewer leads. That's absolutely okay because you will have higher conversions because the people who come through the funnel, the intentional funnel from LinkedIn right into your traditional funnel, they will be more qualified. You'll have less traffic. That's okay because you'll have more revenue. You'll have no ads maybe, and that's okay too because you'll have deeper trust. So here's what I want you to take away. Your brand is your funnel. Your brand is your funnel. Your content is like the conversation. Your profile is the equivalent of a landing page, and your DMs are the soft call to action. That's what they are. They're the soft call to action to get people to move through your funnel. So you're not replacing your existing systems, you're making them more strategic, maybe a little bit faster, and definitely more human. And I think in the age of AI, that's the most important part where we see so much automation, so much technology. Like somebody asked me a couple of weeks ago if one of my lives was an avatar. I'm like, do I look like a freaking avatar? What? I saw it popping up when I was live. And then I was like, I'm not even going to respond to that now because when I'm on live, I'm using a third-party platform. So Zoom with a third-party platform called Restream. And what actually happens is it's hilarious. The messages come through, but they're a little bit late. So I tend not to reply directly when they're coming through. But it's hilarious because I went to reply afterwards and the message was gone. So whoever had written it had deleted it, but it made me laugh. And I did reply anyway to say, no, I'm not a funnel. I think they heard some ums and ahs, and I was swearing like a drunken sailor that day. My brain was all over the place. But anyway, the point of this and wrapping up is that yes, you're not replacing anything. And you're not replacing the automations you have in place. What you're doing is you're strategically adding an extra layer so that that layer flows with intention and it's very human. So this is the kind of thing that I work on with clients through Millionize and Business Accelerator. And yeah, it's the fun kind of stuff that helps you build a permission first client engine. And yes, you can use tech in the background, but it's really based on trust and client centricity. And it really works very well. And it's a fantastic way to attract the right clients to you as well. And no, it doesn't mean that you only get a limited number of clients or whatever, but what it does do is it helps you attract more high value clients. And an example of this is one of my clients is working towards a realistic goal and is a lot of the way there already at working a 3-day week and having a 300K a year and only working 6 to 7 hours on those 3 days, right? So it's all very doable, but it's thinking about the entire customer journey and not looking at each little bit in isolation. So I hope that makes sense. I'll stop rabbiting on, but I wanted you to know, consciously or subconsciously, you've got an invisible LinkedIn funnel. Imagine what you could do when you make it visible and really intentional and incredibly strategic. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Send me a message if this has prompted or provoked something in you. And if you need any help with looking at your marketing or anything like that, go to deirdremartin.ie/marketing assessment. There's a 10-minute questionnaire in there that will give you back a detailed marketing report on any gap that you might have in your marketing. And it's a fantastic way for you to identify some of the foundational stuff that you might need to do. And it's more so geared towards traditional funnels, but it's definitely worthwhile taking it because it does look at the empathy piece and a few different bits as well. So go and check that out. You'll get a really detailed, personalized report back. It's nearly 50 pages long. It's absolutely worthwhile putting the 10 minutes in to get it back and taking a half an hour afterwards to read through it. So there you go. I stop rabbiting on. Next week, I will be back and I will be talking. I always do this at the end of the live. What am I talking about again next week? Turning IP into offers using LinkedIn as, no, I'm not. That's the week after. Oh, spoiler alert. It's about not building a bigger audience, but building a better one. That's what next week is about. So show up, same time, same place, 1 p.m. next Friday. And yes, have a good Friday, if not a great one. Bye.